Hi there, welcome back to part 3 of decorating the pages in your paper bag journal. If you've been following along with me, I finished this one yesterday, and you may have noticed that it's been a bit slow in getting the actual design up online for you. I don't know why I've been having a bit of trouble getting it uploaded on YouTube, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But for now, this is the next part, and what I've done is I've actually put some line drawings together, these ones here. That's a lady and obviously a rose line drawing, and what I've done is I've actually put them up on my blog, and I've put a link in the just the description of this particular video so that you can go and print it up if you like. There's sepia colours. I've made them sepia so that when you go over them and transfer them, you'll see where you've been. If you use a pencil, even better, because or a pen, you know, a heavy pen, you can see where you've actually gone, and it'll just make it easier by not having it a black and white line drawing. I had a little bit of a think after doing this one yesterday, and I thought what I want to do is keep some semblance of uniformity in opposite pages. So I've decided I could put a rose here, or I could put her here, and I'm going to put whatever it is on this side and going to put this paper on the other side, just so that I've got a lovely piece of paper there as a decorative piece. I was actually going to use some of my washi tape just down the side here. Pulled it out and I looked at it and I thought, yes, I don't mind it, and it will work in with the design opposite with the woman, so I still might use some of that. I'm just holding off on it for now because I want to put the design on the other side before I put the paper in. So just move that aside. So what I've done is, as I said, I've put them both on a sheet for you so that they will pretty much fit on the page of this size book. That one will fit. I've made them so that they will fit. So if you want to go and print those out, I'm just going to chop them here just so that I can use it more easily. And I'm thinking I might, because this is a female painting picture with some roses, I might put the rose here, but instead of putting it across this way, maybe I will. Yeah, maybe I will. I'll put it across this way. So what I'll do is I'm just going to cut around this so I can make it easier to just to stick down onto the page to trace over. And I was going to use my stylus to trace over it, but because I've put it on the paper, I think I'll go with the pen. So I'll just grab the pen. I need to, yeah, I kind of like it up the right way actually, rather than like this. So I'm going to put it about there. These little flowers here are going to be probably going over the piece of paper that I thought I would put down here. So just let me see. So if I put those over there, that'll be okay. I think I can paint them on there. So what I'll do before I do that is I'll go ahead and chop the dinosaur here, chop the paper. I think just ripping it is probably a better idea. So if you've got some really nice paper that you've got to use, just line it up with the crease in the paper there. That'll do. And I've put it but straight up against the edge there. I've covered over, so I've decided already not to use the tape on this page. So I'm just going to tear this piece of paper. I use it sparingly, as I told you earlier on. I don't have much of it, so I really begrudge using it, to be honest. And just going to do the same with the bottom here. just make sure that I've got at least enough on there. I'll probably end up going crooked, but we shall see. I'm just tearing it. Just find it easier that way. And we'll glue that down because I'm going to transfer that design when it's going to cut across over there. So I might just glue that one down. I'm going to use my trusty glue here that I tend to use. On this paper I've got more of a flat side and a bumpy side. I'm going to put the bumpy side up because I like that effect. But the other side is equally as beautiful. So I'll just move that away. Yep, right. So let's glue it. See if I don't glue myself. You just go along the edge. Obviously you don't need my instruction into how to glue things, but this is pretty much how I do it. Try to keep it in from the edge of it. This is quite a sticky sort of glue. It dries clear, and I'm going to go down the middle just so that I get a good adherence to the page that I'm putting it on, making sure that all down the edge has got some bit of glue on it. And I haven't gone right to the edge because I'm going to flatten it down with something. I'll find something in a minute to flatten it down, but I'll just pop this up along here. It should fit perfectly. Okay. Where are we? I've got my, I keep forgetting what these things are called, but this type of thing. Let's move the camera out of the way. I'll come back. So yeah, just sort of pressing down on it so that it's actually up against the page nicely. I doubt that it'll come undone. There's quite a bit of glue on there, but it's not flooding out the sides because I haven't put it so close to the edge that it'll do that, thankfully. Otherwise it'll stick my other pages together. Done that before. All right, so now that I've got that down, I'm just going to move in, get myself organised and pop this design down here. I'm going to stick it on with some washi tape. I tend to buy some cheap washi tapes as well so that I can use them for sticking down pages on my cutting mats and all kinds of interesting things. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of this just to keep it in place, really. And I also have this carbon paper, and there's two sides to it, obviously. There's a shiny side and a more matte side. The matte side is the side you need to place down under the project. So I'm going to do that now. This is the way I trace my designs onto my piece. In the past, I have, every design that I create, I usually create it onto a thick tracing paper so that I can do this very thing and have the background coming through so I can see it quite well. Today it doesn't matter so much, and I'm not sure that everyone would have tracing paper or even the carbon paper on hand, but if you do, this is how I tend to do mine. And I know I've got my pages kind of lifting up this way. I'm going to have to press down quite well on here just to get the design on. I'm going to start from the left and come across to the right, but I'm using the pen just so that I can see where I've been, because if I use a stylus, the stylus is wonderful, and I recommend that you get one if you haven't got one, which is these. But in this case, I can then see where I've been, and I don't have to go over the design more than once to get the design in proper. So yeah, when I create my designs, I usually create them onto tracing paper, and then I print them up onto white paper and I store them in a big bag, and I use them over and over as the years go by. I've painted quite a few beautiful large paintings using some of my designs that I've kept for years. I can then go over and redo that design in a different scale, perhaps, you know. But I figure I've taken the time to actually draw these things, and I don't want to be just tossing them out as I use the paper. So I've kept them on the tracing paper so that I can rework them each time I need to use them. Yeah, so go ahead, if you're following up on this, print up your design and go ahead and trace it in. You can put it anywhere you like. You don't have to use it in this particular journal, but this is why I've created it, this particular design. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish tracing this. Right, so I've finished going over the design. You can see where I've done with the biro. That's the whole point behind doing the sepia design, and because you can see where you've been with the biro. If you want to use the stylus, go ahead and use the stylus, but I just find this an easier way, so I'm just going to take that up. It's funny, as I was doing this, somebody came to my door and it was a blooming salesman telling me how much the house up the street sold, and I thought when I came back my pattern had come up because the washi tape sort of lifted up a bit, and I thought, now I've got to replace my, or reposition my pattern. So thankfully I got it okay, but yeah, how annoying. The things you do. Anyway, so why I've done this is because I figured that if you want to use the design to trace, it's going to be much easier than drawing your own, unless you are an artist who can draw. It's good to use someone else's design. This actually happens to be mine. During the COVID initial outbreak, what I did, my role changed drastically as a registered nurse, and I basically had to screen everybody coming into the practice, and there were times where it was a little bit quiet, even though we're a huge practice where I work in general practice. I started to just grab some paper and pencil and just sort of fiddling around with some different designs, and I made stickers out of them. They're on my website under COVID designs, I think I call them, but they're little black and white pencil drawings that I created during that. This one I created a long time ago. It's many years old, and I have my tracing paper design, which I've used to create a print so that you can print it up and use it if you should so desire. And the reason why I've put a line drawing is because there's some really beautiful toile designs around, and from very old to more modern. And I painted this particular flower in a toile design on a painting, and I did it all in the one tone, and it came out pretty nice. But I thought for you who may be non-painters or non-artists watching this, and if you want to achieve something really lovely, you can just follow along with this and sort of just trace it on. And I was going to say earlier too, if you don't have this type of tracing paper, I think you can buy it in most art shops. I've had mine hanging around with me for over 20 years, so I don't know where I purchased it, but you can purchase it online or in one of the local art shops. But if you don't have that, just put pencil over the back of the design. Just put some lead pencil, like a HB or soft pencil, over the back, and then just place it on and then go over it with the pen, and you'll get an imprint of the pencil on here. You probably would already know that from school days. The other thing is I'm actually going to paint my design here, and I'm going to use a little liner brush to do that, and then I'm going to shade it in with my angle shader here. But if you don't have a liner brush or paint or an angle shader, I've also got a set of these. They're Tombos. They're acid free, and they're not permanent, I don't believe. So if you do have some permanent markers like this one here as a precision pen, I often use those for fine drawing, and it's quite a fine little tip on it. And these are waterproof. Okay, so if you're going to want to paint in this, I suggest you outline it with one of these that are waterproof, or find yourself some waterproof type markers. And on each of the markers you've got the tip and you've got the brush, so you would use the tip to go around the edge, and you would use the brush to do the shading on the inside. And there are many of them on the market. You don't have to have them waterproof, but I need a waterproof outline because I'm going to paint mine in, but my outline's actually going to be paint. So just a tip for you. These would look great. You've got blenders with them as well, and a variety of colours, so you don't have to just stick with the one colour. I'm going to stick with the one shade because I want it to work in with these tones here. So I'm just going to go around the outside of the leaves and the petals. If I can, it's really a bit tricky to see that one that I've put on the paper. I didn't want to press too hard. I didn't want to rip the paper, so I'm going to wing it. Just have a look at my design here. Shouldn't be too hard to just do that. But if you're not confident in using a very fine line, a paintbrush, then I would recommend that you use one of the markers, because you can get some really gorgeous outcomes with that. And you'll need a white or an off-white background, something light, so that you can transfer your design on and actually see the thing, as well as, you know, colour it in, I suppose. All right, so what I'm going to do, I've got my palette, and this is my really funky wet palette. It's got lots of bits of colour on it, and this palette has been alive for at least, oh gee, I think 3 weeks now, and it's still going great guns. There's still quite a lot of paint on it, and the paint's still quite wet, so I can use it really easily. I'm going to actually I might turn it around that way so that I can get to this colour here. Is the colour that I'm going to go for, because it's this colour, but I think I want to add a little bit more of the purple matter to it, so I'll just grab some of that and bring it over. And when you're using a liner brush, go with a watery consistency. If you're going to use like an inky consistency, I'd recommend that you typically get a flow medium or a liquefying medium, something that will water down the consistency of the paint, but it won't impact on the binding agent in the paint, so it won't actually water down the whole thing and make it not as steadfast, because these are the ones that I use are archival quality. They're just Sonia brand, and yeah, they will stand the test of time. They do not fade. And so, you know, if you're going to use water, use it very sparingly. In fact, I'm going to use a bit of water. Actually, I've got a medium there. I think that was the sealer, so I'm just going to whack that in there just to make it a little bit more flowy. And this is pretty wet anyway, but we'll just start with the, I'm a right-hander, so I'm going to start from the left and work my way across, so I'm not putting my hand in what I've painted. Done that before and learned from it, and that's a good thing, but I'm finding it a bit tricky to see this the lines on this paper here, so bear with me while I try and figure it out. I don't suppose it really matters. I can just do it as I feel. So what I do when I paint my little designs here, I try to do it all in the one hit, but being on this particular paper, it's going to be a bit hard to actually do that. I'm just trying to figure out where the lines are. It's really quite annoying. So I'm just going to make it up. So I'm pressing and lifting each time, but I've got a feeling that there's something going on with my brush here, because I'm getting a little feathering. There's probably a few bits of brush hanging out the side, I think. If you're using a very fine liner, first step, inky consistency. Second step, don't hold it right down here near the ferrule, because you don't have the same control. Hold it up just above the ferrule. And if you're doing fine lines, a good rule of thumb, take a deep breath in and you'll do much better. at getting the line. For instance, a straight line is always going to be easier to achieve when you've got your breath held or holding your breath. Normally when I get over here, I'll be able to do straight lines. They'll be easier to do because it's not as rough as this paper here. I don't even know if I've hit the line there, it doesn't matter. Just keep working. And it looks like a brownie tone, and it probably is, but when I come back to do the shading, I'm actually going to put a little bit more red in with it just to shade around the inside of the bowl of the rose, and hopefully it'll look pretty darn fabulous. These things take time and patience, as well as you know, honing your skills by practicing. It's not always easy just to pick up a paintbrush and start working if you're not used to it. Okay, so it's going to look a little, you know, like a drawing until I get that shading done. I'll get onto the main drag here in a minute. Just get these done. They're not exactly as they have been drawn on here. I'm just looking at my original drawing just to see if I can copy in what I've done originally. But they will look okay when they're done. I'm still having a little bit of an annoyance with my uploading. Not sure. I've put in a question to YouTube why I've tried 4 times now and the thing hasn't uploaded for me. So it's a little bit annoying. Right, I think I'm there. Go down here. And I've got part of the leaf over here. I'm not sure where it is, but I'm just going to put a leaf in and hope for the best. I don't think this is probably the best brush. I'm having to load up more than I expected. Sometimes if you've got a liner brush, the longer the liner, the more paint you can gather on the actual liner, and so the less time or the less amount of times you need to actually dip into the paint. Just kind of ad-libbing a little bit here. I think that's how it goes. It doesn't matter, it's mine anyway, so it doesn't really matter how I do it. But yeah, it's just a guide. If any of you have watched the pirate movies, you know, it's just guidelines really. Alright, yeah. I'm kind of lost. I'm looking at my design over here just to see where I'm going. I think there's a bit of a part of the design I've missed there, which is a part of the bowl here. I can't see the pencil, so I'm just going to pretend I can and make it up as I go. I think that's going to come over here. Yeah, well, you can see where I'm going with it. So if you're going to give it a shot, I highly recommend it. It's really quite therapeutic to start painting and dabbling with. I think I've missed that line there. We'll go back in there. Yeah, and it doesn't really matter if you don't have it exactly the same as mine. Even if you've got another design that you would like to put on, try and do it with your markers if you've got them, and see what you think. You might prefer that. I just want to make this a painting journal, because I'm thinking I'm actually going to give this one away, because I'll do this one first and then I'll do another one pretty much similar, but this is probably the one that I'll give away. The first one will always be the best one for me. I want to give away the best. So yeah, it's going along here. You can see I'm pressing at some points and I'm lifting. The brush is not a bad brush. There are, you know, obviously a new brush is a good brush. This has been terribly used. Look at that. I've taped up the thing because the paint came off and it's all kind of coming off. It is a script brush. So you just use the brand you've got, or if you're going out to buy some brushes, buy the best quality that you possibly can. Don't buy watercolour brushes to do this type of work, because this is the gouache that I'm using, the Jasonja gouache, or, you know, paint. Yeah, just buy the best quality that you can afford, because they will last you if you look after them. I must confess that I've pretty much abused a lot of my brushes over the years, and when I wash them out, they're water wash up, which is great because of the paint. And washing them up, usually I take all the paint off them as much as I can with a paper towel, and then I wash them severely under running water. I just need to hold my breath here for a bit. And then I put some soap. You can actually get some brush cleaning soap in the Jasonja brand, and probably in others as well. And there's some pasty type soaps you can get, and what they do is they're not harsh like other soaps are, the ones that, you know, you would use to wash your hands. But they're a brush cleaning brush, so they've got soap rather, so they've got conditioner in the soap for the brush, so the harshness of the soap can be really hard on your brushes if you've got them. So it's good to take as much paint out as you can to begin with, and then wash out the majority of the paint, and then put the soap on and sort of massage it with your fingers just to get all the paint out, and until the foam on the soap that you use is no longer there. I don't know if that made sense or not, but I'm going to go ahead and finish just doing the outline here, and then I'm going to come back and do a bit of shading on it. All right, so I've finished doing the outline for the picture, and what I've done is I'm picking up my angle shader now, and I've got a little bit of medium on my palette here. I've got a feeling that was the sealer that I used the other day, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use it just to wet my brush. So I've dabbed my brush in, picked up some sealer, and I'll just move this back down a bit, going into a spot here on the palette. I'm just going to press it down, pull it back the other way, and that's going to load the brush with some really good quality slippery sealer, which is not going to water down the paint anymore. Then I'm going to pick up a bit of paint on my tip of my brush. Because that's a bit wet there, I'm just going to make another little puddle over here. Just see how I'm dabbing on the spot. I'm not kind of painting my palette. I'm just sort of pushing that paint through the brush, and I'm going to use this to shade. I'm going to start shading the leaves first, and then we'll come back. So it's the same color that I've used for the outline, but because I've used the sealer, or I would normally use a magic mix or a or glaze medium to do this, but I'm just using what I've got on my palette, and it's going to work for me. So I'm just going to come around. I'm going to shade some of these leaves. What I want to do is stick that bowl of the rose out out front, so I want to lift it forward, and to do that need to put some shading behind the leaves. I've done some shading on the drawing here just to show you where I'm putting the shading. So the way that I do that is I simply just flatten my brush down like that. I don't brush on the edge at the moment, so just flatten it down and push it in around the base of the leaf. Okay, you can bring it up if you want. We're going to make the leaf look a little bit nicer before we finish, but this is pretty much just shading the base of the leaf. So if you want to go ahead and try that, just press down on your brush, and where there's a little turnover here on this one, I'm just dip my fingers in my paint. Don't want to do that. I'm just going to stand it up a little bit so you can see it and I can see it better. I'm just going to bring that colour down the edge of that turnover there, and I'm going to do the same around the base of the leaf that I did on the first one. Okay, you can probably use a wider brush. I'm just going to fluff it out a little bit by putting a bit more shading up the leaf there, so it's not just a line around the base. Just gently work your way up. And because you've only got the paint on the tip here instead of the heel, you can do that with it'll swim across a little bit, so you can do that and it'll give you that nice blended look without looking like a big fat line. Okay, so just work your way, if you're working with me, just work your way around the leaves. We'll do those first and then we'll get started on the rose. Okay, so I'll show you that again. Just around, I want to make sure we get all the leaves done first. You can do the rose first, but I just think it's nicer just to get the leaves done. If you want to go a little paler on the rose, you can. But yeah, it's all going to be the one shade or the one colour. So yeah, get started on that, and we'll see how you go. And just pressing down and lifting up. Get some more paint. Obviously, the more paint you put in and the less medium, the darker that this is going to be. You don't want it super dark. If you find that you've gone through and you've done it and you think, oh, you know, I'm not too sure about that, I think I'd like it a little bit darker, then all you need to do is go over it. I think if you go too dark to start with, it's easier to put more on than to take it off, put it that way. Because this paint is lovely. It'll just really stick beautifully to the surface of this gesso here. Gesso is a great background to paint in on. It gives you, I think having a white palette behind anything you paint gives you a true colour. So the colours that I'm using here are the colours that they actually are. If you painted on this background here, for instance, you'll see that it'll be much darker because this paper will soak it in and it's a different background colour. So if you're using a palette, always have a white or a clear background so that you can see the true value and the true colour of your paints. I'll just do that little lip there because it's on the underside. And then I'll come in under here and press down. Maybe a little bit more. The look I'm going for is like a toile design where you've got, quite often you've got just the one colour being used in a different value, different tone. So you can see where I'm going with it. Have a good look at what you're doing, and we'll come back to the rose in a minute. All right, so let's start on the rose. If you're finished and you're happy with the way your leaves look, then we'll just start on the rose. I'm going to the centre of the rose first, I think. I'm just getting a little bit more medium and paint on my brush here. And I'm just going to go over that centre because in the centre of the flower it's going to be quite dark. So I'm just sort of colouring it in with the paintbrush there, making all that area dark. I might even go over it again in a little while, just to deepen the centre. So yeah, just as you did with the leaves, we're just going to start with the outer petals and come in. Just make sure you've got enough colour and medium on your paintbrush, or if you're using the Tombow markers or any other markers and you've got a blending pen with you, what you would do is use the brush part, come in at the base and then blend it with your blender so that it bleeds out a little bit. Don't want to colour in the whole petal, just want to colour in around the base. And I'm going to colour in this little bit here because that's a sort of a turn up. And we'll just, I'm starting on this edge with it. Hopefully I'm not going to have too much paint. There we go. So I've left the top part of the petal clean or white, if you like, and just going to go along the base of this one. But I think I'll do this petal because it's a turn up as well. I'll do that one as well while I've got the brush in that angle. Okay, so we've got 2 turn ups. Just see if I can see any more before I go on. Okay, might start over to the left here. I'm going to turn my page around so it's a little bit easier for me to get to with my brush, and I'm going to go right around here in one foul swoop, hopefully. See, I'm pressing it down flat. And that's all you need to do there. I'm just trying to work out my petals here. It's easier looking at them on the drawing, I think, than on my painting. But I think you get where I'm going with it anyway. It's just giving some form to it with a little bit of shading. We'll do this one here on the inside. While this is the underside, we still need to set this one forward, so we need to put some dark or some shading underneath. Okay, you like it? I like it. We'll keep working with it. Going to come back around this side here now. Actually, I probably should put a little bit in there. I'll just go in there with the tip of the brush. Get some more paint. Make sure you keep going back to your paint and loading up your brush on the spot so that you've got a really good amount to swoop around. You don't have to do too many load ups with it. So I'll start around here. Got quite a lot of medium on that. I hope it doesn't come out too shiny because I think I have used the sealer, which is perfectly fine. Leave that part there light, come in here again dark. I think that looks like it's a curled over sort of petal, so I'm going to go on the underside of it. Take a bit of that off, too much. I didn't want that there. If you've got Q-tips or I don't know what they call them otherwise, if you make a mistake like I just put some paint where I don't want it, just get a Q-tip and take that off. I might do it now before it dries, if I can find it. So I've got hundreds of these little babies. And it's okay to make mistakes because you will always make mistakes. No artist is perfect. And now I'll put a little bit of water on that, and I just want to remove that paint from there. I think I put water on it. It feels like I did. So if you take it off, you know, quick smart, then it'll come off much more easily. Okay, so basically I'm just sort of lifting up the petals and trying to shade the underneath. Even this one here, this is the top of the petal here, this is the base of the petal, so I'm just going to go a little bit around there just to show that. And going to do that with all of these here. We'll start here. A bit carried away. While your brush is on the one angle, you'll find it much more easy just to go with it. I go with the angle of the brush and do the bits that you need to do on that angle. It's like drawing lines. If you're drawing, you know, 20 lines and you want them all to be parallel and nice, then keep your brush or your pencil the same angle. You'll probably find it much easier to do that. Take that up there. Right, where did I miss? Up here. I'll curl over for the leaf. Okay. These little bits here I'm leaving white. With the background coming through, I'm just going to go into the corner of those. And in the middle of these little flowers here, we'll go in there. And just down one side underneath here, like so. Thinking I might just, as the petals come into the centre, I'm just going to put a little bit of the colour in there. It's really quite strange painting on this paper because it's really quite rough. But the same principle, just go towards the centre, make it darker towards the centre. Okay, I think I'm going to just come in under here just to stand that little leaf forward. And under there. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the centre and I'm going to make it a lot darker. So I'm just going back into my paint. I'm going neat paint in here, so hopefully it'll still show the centre, but without being too ridiculously dark. Don't know if I like that. Looking more brown. Just take a bit of it back with the Q-tip, which is a little bit dampened. Can still see my lines under there where the petals are. I'm thinking now that I've got that colour on, I might just go in under here again. Just into where the petal or the bowl kind of goes in. Might be a good place to put it a little bit darker. Yeah, I think I like that. Maybe around here as well. I'll just go a little bit darker. And oh boy, I'm getting carried away now. So what I'll do is I'm going to put these leaves a little bit further back by making this darker at the back here. Sort of stands the rose bowl forward a little bit better. Okay, it's not realistic, it's not meant to be, because it's a line drawing after all. yeah, just fiddle around until you're happy with it, which is what I typically do. All right, I think I better leave that. Actually, this one here needs to be darker. Can't leave it. Got to do it well. Okay, just darker in the centre. Get rid of that line. Don't like the lines. Needs to be a blended look for me. Okay, so I really like that. I think that's going to be it for that. And yeah, I'll figure out what I'm going to do around it, whether I'm going to do anything at all. Whoever gets this one can, you know, probably put some lace in or whatever. But as I said earlier, I'm going to go through and do the artwork pieces that I want to put in it, and then I'll look at each page and see how I'm going to decorate it. So in keeping with these colours, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. I love that there, particularly because it's a lot darker. But ultimately, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful little journal that will be nice and funky, but it'll work in together. So that's the front. Second page. Got someone else at the door again. You believe that? Taken away from me here. Anyway, I'll come back with probably tomorrow when I can upload a new part of the journal. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.